So about 60% of those after one psilocybin session really lose their fear of dying.
I think that's one thing ketamine does is it lets you go back and change the story a little bit.
That visual image might actually be a metaphor for something else.
We didn't know what we were doing, and we were like boiling shit and like getting sludge out of the bottom of this thing.
You know, we give those out like
candy.
Like candy, right? There had been a story for a long time. You know, healthy skepticism is what I love. The joy on her face and the lightheartedness, like, were just like amazing.
Whatever happened with Matthew Perry just took it back about 100 years.
Right. Mental illness is getting more common.
You're fixing and helping them change their lives.
For about 80% of people that have ketamine treatments, they get at least 50% better.
What do you think they should know about it?
First of all, it's a legitimate medical treatment. If you've had a surgery, chances are good you've had ketamine already.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
It's just like such a Rubik's Cube of just nightmares. Inherited trauma.
Oh, totally.
That stuff's wild. I just don't like it when they demonize things that help people.
I need some help.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I'm hurting.
The worst feeling is like when you just don't care about anything. People in that position, you just want to help them so bad. Hey, it's Wait What with Amy Mayo. I just want to tell everybody that this episode gets kind of deep, and we talk about addiction, and we talk about suicide and suicidal feelings. And I'm hoping that this is going to help people, but I also want you to know I'm not a doctor. I'm a songwriter and an author, but it's really close to my heart, mental health stuff, but everybody's different. You got to go talk to your own doctor, and you got to trust yourself about what you should be doing. But my prayer for this is it helps people, but it's really good. It's Amy Mayo with Wait What, and I'm excited about this episode because I think we're all going to learn a lot. I'm with Dr. Amy Neff, and she does a lot of things, but we're talking today about a few different things, but one of them, ketamine. That's what we're talking about right now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I want to start, if that's good with you.
That's good with me. Let's start there.
Yeah, because like I think people are interested and curious, but they don't know anything. Like, what is ketamine? What does it do?
Yeah. So ketamine is a drug that was synthesized in the early 1960s.
What is synthesized? Made?
It was made. Yep. It was created in a lab.
Okay.
And fascinatingly, we now know there's a mushroom that makes ketamine.
Are you serious?
I'm serious. I can't remember the exact name of it, but there's a mushroom.
I freaking love mushrooms. I'm fascinated by mushrooms.
Yeah. Right. So ketamine, was a follow-up drug to another drug called PCP or phencyclidine.
Is that natural too?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so. Anyways, PCP was the one, angel dust, right? That,
was
was causing like a lot of psychiatric symptoms.
Yeah.
So ketamine is a kind of a cousin.
Okay.
Right? But the whole purpose of them was not to get people high or to cause psychiatric symptoms or hallucinations. It was to be able to anesthetize people without having to intubate them. Okay.
Okay.
So you could perform surgery on somebody without them needing all the equipment.
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
to do it. And so pretty soon after ketamine was made, it was deployed by the U.S. government in Vietnam as something called the buddy drug.
Oh my
right?
gosh, what does that mean?
Well, so the GIs that were injured in the field were given ketamine to give their buddies. And this was where the term the K-hole
oh my
comes
gosh, from Vietnam?
from Vietnam. I mean, I love the history of this.
I love this stuff too. I love this stuff.
Yeah.
And I can't believe the thing about the mushroom. So there's ketamine in a mushroom?
It's making it, right? And the mushroom is making ketamine. Well, why?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So probably because it can defend itself from attackers.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think the product that this mushroom substance, which has some ketamine in it, is used agriculturally And it's, something that combats nematodes, which is another word for like a parasitic infection of of a crop.
What was the moment you thought, "Okay, I wanna know more about this," like, with ketamine therapy?
Right. Well, I mean, my history with ketamine goes back into the early 2000s. So my family used to live in Virginia, and I was practicing at a psychiatric practice in Virginia. And one of my patients came to me and he said that he had met this neurologist who was going to treat him with ketamine for his severe depression.
Oh, wow.
And I knew this neurologist. I knew he was like very much like a cutting edge, person. A little quirky, but like so
Most of the best people are a little quirky.
yeah, yeah. Well, the story doesn't end that well. So this patient of mine, had a complicated life. And the one person that he was really close to was his grandfather who ended up dying.
Yeah.
And shortly after that, he took his own life.
Oh, gosh. Oh, my
And
gosh.
it was really terrible. And I always linked those things in my mind, this ketamine
Yeah.
and then his death. And so my kind of relationship with ketamine as a treatment came like with the full pumping of the brakes from the
Mhm.
beginning. I was like, I don't like this.
Yeah.
I mean, it's traumatic for any doctor to lose a patient,
Yeah. Oh,
right?
yeah.
Anyways, fast forward to, I don't know, maybe 2017. It gets to the point where in the literature, kind of talking about treating depression, anxiety, PTSD, they're so common. And
They're so common.
so common. And there's this phenomenon called treatment resistance, right? Where it's like people are taking medications and they're not working.
Yeah.
Okay. So, it's like hitting me in the face. Like, I need to know about this treatment because it appears to be at least twice as effective
Yeah.
as regular medicines. And in some studies, 3 to 5 times more
And
effective.
faster too, right? I mean,
Right.
like,
It
like
is the most rapid acting antidepressant we have in
so
healthcare.
is ketamine the most rapid one or the most legal? Like the most
Mm,
rapid one that's
right.
legal?
I think it's actually hands down the most rapid acting.
Is it better than mushrooms?
It is. So the difference, we're going to go off road here a little bit
Yeah.
into kind
Yeah.
of what the difference is. So, like, here's a vocabulary word, affect, right? Like how I'm showing up to you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, so my affect is like,
Is it your vibe?
well, I mean, it's a good like descriptor, a good adjective, right? It's like how I'm showing up to people, right? So there's depressed affect,
Yeah.
there's anxious affect,
Yeah.
right? And so this thing that determines affect is really like complicated. And with psilocybin, for about a week after the kind of mushroom experience, most people's affect is a little down and then it gets much better,
Yeah.
right? But that's what makes psilocybin a little bit more challenging when we're talking about treating people who are like actively depressed,
Yeah.
right? Because it might make it worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
Whereas ketamine, typically very rapid acting, and we can repeat it. So every time you give ketamine kind of in short succession, like every other day
Yeah.
for
How often? Most people don't know anything about it.
okay.
So, how often, like, if you're going to sign somebody up for ketamine therapy, how often do they come in? How long does it last? People are so curious. Like, because
Yeah.
I was asking some questions, like, people are kind of scared what's going to happen to.
Right.
Like, what am I going to do? Am I going to like revert to some memory that's going to scare the hell out of me and traumatize me
Right.
more?
Right. Well, so let's talk first about, kind of how ketamine gets taken. Ketamine is given a few different ways. Okay, so we know it's an anesthetic, but in mental health, we don't use the same intense doses that they use to fully put someone to sleep.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so it's lower doses. And we start out kind of like at the bottom of that low dose. And over successive sessions, we're going to kind of arrive at the dose that seems to be the best fit for the patient.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we give it in different ways. So we can give it in an IV form. And the IV form, I kind of think about it, it's like you're walking into the shallow end of the pool.
Uh-huh.
Like you walk in and then you get to where you're treading water and then you walk back out, right?
Yeah.
So it's pretty even. And ketamine's really advantageous through an IV if you're concerned. Because if we just turn the IV off, the half-life of the drug is about 7 minutes. So
Okay.
it's like after 7 minutes, half the drug's gone, another 7 minutes, half the drug's gone. So you're just coming out of it really quickly,
Yeah.
okay? And then another way we can give it is just an injection, like in the arm, in the muscle, okay? And so we talked about like IV ketamine's like walking into the shallow end of the pool, right? The intramuscular injection's like, boom,
Bam.
you just got pushed into the deep end of the pool, okay? So ketamine is really interesting as a drug because it's dissolvable both in water, like in your blood, and in fat. So within 2 to 5 minutes of getting that injection, it's pretty much in every cell of your body. It just goes, right? And
Oh,
spreads out
man.
everywhere. Yeah. And so that one you can't take back,
Yeah.
right? So it's like what's done is done.
How do you do it most of the time? Do you do the shot or the IV?
It really varies. So some people just love that sense of safety,
Yeah, yeah,
right? Like I can turn this off.
yeah,
And then other people don't want an IV, like getting medical procedures is traumatic.
yeah.
And it would be better for them, to just make it like it's like you're just getting a B12 shot, right?
How drastically different do people respond to it? I kind of know the answer to
Yeah.
that a little bit,
Like
but
when you say that, like one person has one experience and another.
well, okay, like with Chris and me, like we couldn't even have had more different experiences. Like,
Right.
but I have my own opinions. I'm not a doctor, but I have my own opinions of why. Like for him, he just wants to be like in control. So somebody that wants to be in control, if they're going to hallucinate, they can't be in control and hallucinating at the same
Right.
time. So to me, I always felt like with Chris that, first of all, I think he just bottles so much up, and it was almost, I think, like somebody just broke the bottle.
Yes.
And then he didn't know what to do. Like, I mean, nothing bad happened, but he didn't know what to do
Right.
because he keeps all this all bottled up. And then he tries to stay so in control. And then he just cried like crazy. He just
Yeah.
cried and cried and cried and cried. But he said it was like a purge, that it was a good thing that
Right.
needed to happen.
Right.
But it freaked him out too. But see, for me, that was his experience. Mine couldn't even have been more different. Like I talked the whole time I was on it. Mine was actually great. I've did it, a few times and it was great every
Mhm.
time. And I remember the last time I did it, it's been a couple years ago, but I remember right when, first of all, we couldn't get the music right. Because being a songwriter, I got so many issues with music that took a minute, and the medicine was kicking in, and the music wasn't right. And I was
Right.
just like, "We got to get this music right." So then we got the music right, and I remember feeling like I was going up a roller coaster. I got in the click, 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 got to the very top, and then I was like, "Here we go!" And then when I remember you laughing because you were in there with me,
Right. Right.
and then I was in this mailbox and it was raining paint, and like there were all these childhood things. There were a lot of toys. And then it was really wild because it like reverted me to being a little kid. And I just was so resilient as a little kid. And I
Mhm.
don't know where that came from, but there were some moments in it. I'm not exactly sure what was happening. Like, but there were some moments where like I was like, don't do that. I don't want you to do that. I was like in my childhood bedroom.
Yeah.
And I was like, don't do that. I don't want you to do that. And then one of the coolest parts is this like quartz, like crystal shot up around me, like protecting me, like. And then up through this hole at the top, I could see like nebulas in the universe, and it was beautiful.
Mhm.
And like, so mine, I had a couple weird things too, because I did it like 2 or 3 times, but I didn't really understand everything that happened. But for me, it was all good.
Right.
Like it was all good.
Yeah. So you're just describing, kind of some classic experiences of people. And one of the ways I like to present it is, ketamine typically brings up what you're ready to work on.
Yeah.
You
Are
know?
people afraid that it's going to bring up these like memories they don't want.
Yeah, totally.
That's what I would think they'd be
Right.
afraid of.
And, it's also true that if you start to think about like memories you don't want to think about,
Yeah.
then you start to think about how much work it is to not think about
Yeah.
something you've just
Yeah.
thought about,
Yeah.
right? And there's a whole field of therapy called acceptance and commitment therapy that's kind of talking about this. It's like rather than resist,
Uh-huh.
maybe we could start to accept.
Is
Okay.
that better?
Well, it takes a lot less energy,
Yeah.
but
Because you're doing it every day if you're doing the other, like trying to not think about it.
yeah, think about not thinking about a bright yellow Jeep,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You know,
That's a good one.
right. That's a classic acceptance and commitment therapy kind of suggestion.
I can't imagine what you see. Like, do you see major transformations in people?
It's not like you take some ketamine and you come out and you're like,
You're all good.
I'm good, right? It's
Yeah.
not typically like that. I have had one patient who literally said, like, kind of on a baby dose of ketamine, she kind of like got what she needed. And she's been fine ever since, and that's been like 3 or 4 years.
That's another question somebody had. Do people, like if you're getting your hair colored, you got to go back and get the roots done? Do you
Yeah.
have to go like do touch-ups or whatever?
You do. I mean, for most people. So, and I think that's just kind of a larger kind of awareness of like what our mental state is like, right?
Yeah.
It's dynamic, right? It's not like you cut your arm and we sew it up and other than the scar, you never hurt that spot again unless you go do the same thing. Like we live in a matrix of other people and relationships and so we can have a breakthrough,
Yeah.
right? And then we go back to our same
Oh,
pattern.
yeah.
And then all the forces that kind of got us back into that space, like they work on us.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to kind of come out of it unless you change a lot, right?
Yeah.
And that is something that I think sometimes people come to us, depressed or anxious or with a history of trauma, and they kind of know something's not right in their life,
Mhm.
right? But it's almost like they want like a big peak experience to kind of help them shake the cage,
Yeah.
And we generally recommend people not act on that like within a day or two of taking ketamine.
Mhm.
Because the mind speaks to us in metaphor. Like you could think about your own experience and it's like your childhood bedroom and, kind of like a feeling of a lack of safety. And then you
Yeah.
have this like structure that comes up and it
Yeah.
like protects you.
Yeah.
And that's like a beautiful example of the brain kind of getting a redo or a do-over,
Yeah, that's
right?
actually, you're taking me back to that. I think that's one thing ketamine, oh my gosh, I forgot about this. I think that's one thing ketamine does is it lets you go back and change the story a little bit.
Yes, right.
And then when you think about this thing, it's not this weak person or it's not, you're coming at it from a different angle. Like,
Totally.
is that what you see?
Totally. And that's what they say about memory. It's like every time you remember something, you edit the memory.
Yeah, you rewrite it.
Exactly, right? It comes up, you rewrite it.
And like if there's a big thing like a shooting, like that thing in Las Vegas at Mandalay Bay,
Mhm.
everybody said the shooter was somewhere. When you have something like that, everybody remembers it different, and then every time they're telling it, they tell it a little different, and you can't get a good feel for what even really happened because everybody remembers things different. And people will swear, no, it was over there. And then somebody else will be like, no, it was over here.
Right.
And memory's crazy too to me, like, because it's like, I heard something once, like you're walking along the beach and memory, it's like the little stones it picks up. It's like, why do you remember and what makes your first memory,
Right.
and why do you remember? I've had major things I don't remember, you know what I mean? And then like, I've had things that I don't even know why I remember.
Right. And, there's kind of a gift as a human of forgetting,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like if we remembered everything we did and experienced,
Yeah.
like there'd be, I'd be dead now because I'm 54 and there's just like a lot of
I'm
miles on this
54.
ride too,
Yeah, it's true. Like, I look back on things like it's sad to me. I don't know where this is coming from, but I was thinking about my dad the other day and he's been gone. Like I had a podcast with his best friend
Oh, wow.
and he was there like the night he died. And like, it was it was an emotional podcast, but like, it's so sad when you lose somebody, like, and then it's been a while, and then you just don't want their memory to go away. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you don't want it. And I guess because, you have these there's stories the whole family tells and everybody remembers. But I heard a voicemail of my dad and almost didn't even recognize his voice. It kind of freaked
Mm.
me out a little bit.
Yeah.
And I guess, like, when you're doing this, people are having all kinds of memories coming back up.
Some have memories, and then some experiences are, like, totally different,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, okay,
Yeah.
what's a variety
Yeah, a
of,
little
like,
variety of
different kinds?
experiences.
Because Chris and me, we were both so we were so different,
Right,
so different.
right. So, one example, kind of like on one end of the spectrum would be that some people get a dose of ketamine and they feel nothing.
Is it
Nothing.
because it's too low or
Well, one of the things that happens is if you don't have a sense of safety,
Yeah.
right? Even with ketamine. So it's like we can look at them and it's like they're like clearly on ketamine.
Yeah. Did their pupils dilate?
Mhm. Yeah. And just, kind of like movements are a little bit different and they're like, "No, I don't feel a thing." And it's like, kind of like, "I don't feel a thing." Right? And we're like, "Okay." But that's what feels safe for the psyche,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah,
so that's fine. And so we've had, several people now dose 1, nothing, dose 2, nothing, dose 3. And what we're doing is we're forming that safe container,
yeah,
right? Of like, you know where you're coming, you kind of know the drill, the routine, it's a ritual now. And even though you felt nothing, at the end you're like, well, it's not bad. I've just laid here for, an hour and listened to good music or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
But then it's like we get to that 4th or 5th session and suddenly it's like it goes, right?
yeah.
And we haven't really changed the dose much, so it's
Mhm.
really just the psyche kind of letting go.
Yeah. I think that's it, you gotta let go,
Yeah.
and I think that was Chris's deal. He couldn't let go, but you're gonna have to let go. You know what I mean? It's like trying to jump in a pool and not get wet.
Yeah,
It's
totally.
like that's how I felt with him, and he kept saying, "I fell in the K-hole." I'm like, "This is what's supposed to happen,"
Yeah, so can you
like,
just, like, be curious about it?
yeah, you gotta be open and you gotta think, "Okay, this is gonna give me what I'm supposed to get out of it."
Right, right.
Even if it's a little bad or scary a little bit,
Mhm.
when you get through it, like, it's gonna give you what you're supposed to get. That's how I feel.
Right, and I think a super important piece is that you have the medicine, and as with most psychedelics, we say that the work begins when the medicine ends,
Oh, that's good.
right?
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, so, typically with ketamine, there's even this phenomenon called night school, where the night after you have ketamine, maybe your dreams are really weird or,
Oh, wow, I didn't know
like
that.
it's a little hard to sleep. And, and again, the brain has just had like a couple of really important things happen with ketamine, the
What does it
medicine.
do to the brain? That
Yeah,
was a big question.
right. So it is a super potent anti-inflammatory for the brain.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
real that makes perfect
Yeah.
sense.
And so the kind of the stress hormones like adrenaline
Yeah,
drive up a particular kind of neurotransmitter called glutamate.
yeah,
And glutamate is like excited, right?
yeah. I think my scale of that is way up
Yeah.
always.
Right. And so this kind of just like really dials that down
Yeah,
for the time that the ketamine's active. And it's kind of like literally, it's like taking a big backpack off. So you can really kind of have other, feelings flood in,
yeah,
sensations, just, it's a real different thing than that constant like drive
yeah,
feeling. And then, basically it's causing some of the nerves in the brain that is responsible for learning and memory. It causes the nerves to grow new connections. So it's opening up like something that in childhood's very familiar to us called those critical learning periods.
uh-huh.
You might remember as a kid, it's like you can't get it, you can't get it, can't get it,
Yeah,
and then you can tie your shoes,
yeah.
right? Or ride the bike or add 8
So
plus
it
7.
lets you do that as a grown up.
It does, right? Because basically as grown-ups, we get really into our routines and we get pretty rigid in our thinking,
Yeah, yeah,
and it's hard to kind of reverse that. So in that same way that you rewrite the story of a memory, you can kind of resource the mind to different parts that it's like The mind kind of, as you get older, like one part doesn't really talk to the other part,
Yeah.
even though they both have like a solution to a problem. And so psychedelics in general are kind of like reconnecting.
Making your brain work different.
Exactly. Right.
I don't know. I've always thought that, like, this is so weird, but I swear, I think if you gave like these world leaders like mushrooms and dosed them in tea or something and didn't tell them, like, we would not go to war.
Amy, I wish that were true, but
You
they
think we
actually
still
did a
would?
study.
Really? Are you
Yeah.
serious?
Yeah, so there's this guy in London at Imperial College named Robin Carhart Harris. He's like the bigwig psychedelic researcher. And don't quote me, but I remember a specific conversation about them taking, people who it's like we want to think that these medicines can correct like aggressive thinking or whatever, you know.
What about ego death? If they have that, will that?
Well, a lot of them, most of them, in fact, kind of come through these experiences more entrenched in their beliefs.
Oh no.
So there's kind of that idea that, like,
Might be even worse then.
right. So it's a great point to make kind of early on in a conversation about ketamine that it's not a cure all.
Yeah. I mean, mushrooms, though. I don't know.
Yeah.
Ketamine to me, mushrooms are so different. Do you think mushrooms are different than ketamine? Like to me,
Totally.
to me, mushrooms are more spiritual.
Right. And they
Like,
often
and I
end up.
love that,
Yeah.
the spiritual part.
Right. But you kind of have to be ready for that.
Yeah. Now, I'll tell
Yeah.
you one thing. I've done them a couple times, and one of my friends, like, she just shouldn't have done them to start with. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
and if you're totally closed off, like, and then there was a big group of us, and we did way too many for starters. Like, we didn't know what we were doing, and we were
Yeah.
like bulling shit and like getting sludge out of the bottom of this thing.
Whoa.
And then my publisher at the time, Ron, he was like, everything's gonna be okay. And I was like, if everything's going to be okay, Ron, why's your head getting really big and really little? Like, because it was freaking me out. And then we were at the lake and we went down to the water and we were on a boat. And so I had on a life jacket. I was on an like a float thing, wearing a life jacket, holding the rope. Like, because I know the people next door had to think these people are crazy, but he was nervous about going out on the boat, which was probably smart.
Probably smart.
And but so I remember I had that rope and I was like, hey, Ron, I'm at the end of my rope. And we laughed. We laughed. We had so much fun. But my one friend, she was married and her husband was like this guy that never talked. He turned into Mr. Personality on mushrooms, and that just made her even worse. Like, so like with mushrooms, I guess you don't know what's going to happen. Like, a lot of times, I would never recommend people to do them. Like, unless I think you got to go with your own gut and feelings. Do you feel that way? Like about if somebody, almost like they could cause it theirself. You know what I mean?
Right. Like, I mean, kind of backing up to like, who's a good candidate for this stuff?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So I think basics is you can't already have like a condition where you're hallucinating because it could make it much worse.
Oh, you mean schizophrenic?
Schizophrenia, or sometimes people with schizoaffective disorder, can hallucinate. The same's not true there are types of severe depression where people can have some hallucinations, and that wouldn't be, contraindication to ketamine. When we're talking about psilocybin, there's several things to kind of like unpack there. First of all, like it's not legal in this state.
Yeah.
So in Colorado.
Is it legal in America somewhere?
Colorado and Oregon. Yeah. There may be some potential use cases in California at this point in 2026. I've not kept up with their legislation. So picking, kind of like the set and the setting, right? Those are like really important things. So mindset is what's being mentioned when it's like the set.
Yeah.
And then the setting, like maybe not like driving a boat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just because, you don't know where it's going.
It's true. Yeah.
Right? And so with mindset, there's some really important things for any type of therapy like this. Like you can't go into it going, I never want to feel sad again.
Yeah.
Right? You're just burdening your inner healer. Okay.
Yes.
And we talk a lot about the inner healer in this kind of thing because basically we believe the inner healer, has the capacity to help you. But, typically with life, we get a lot of parts that come out that are trying to like protect us,
Yeah.
and they're kind of obscuring that inner healer. And so, they're like, get up, get dressed, you're fat, you're stupid. And there's some part of that self talk
Yeah.
that is protecting you, right?
Really?
From
Even the
something,
negative parts?
even the negative parts. It's an attempt. It's not a very like helpful
Yeah.
attempt
It's
to
like a
help you.
backwards
It's like a
thing.
backwards
Yeah.
thing, right?
But it's protecting you somehow.
Somehow, right? It may be keeping you from doing stuff that your system yourself, maybe at a point in your childhood, you were told, don't do that by someone. And they kind of like told you in such a way that you like maybe got even really scared,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of ways that the personality, kind of comes forth in life, right? And mostly the job of our personality is just to keep us alive,
Oh, wow.
right?
I love that. I
Yeah,
never have heard that before.
right,
I mean, because people have such different personalities.
right. And one way to know what the inner healer is, the inner healer, calm, curious, centered, not reactive. When you feel that way, you're kind of in your true self energy.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're like, I'm mad at blah, 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 or, I'm worthless or whatever, those are not lines that the inner healer would ever use,
Yeah.
right? And when you feel like, putting up fists, that is classic, like, that's a part. And what I'm really explaining is some aspects of something called internal family systems therapy. So,
Okay. Yeah. I want to know
yeah.
about that.
It's basically originated through a man named Richard Schwartz. And so it's just talking about these parts, right? These parts of our personality that emerge in response to experience. So maybe as a sensitive little kid, you're 3 years old, somebody's put you to bed, and you walk out where the adults are sitting and they are done with you. They're like tired of kids and want to do their own thing. And they're like, get back to bed. And so you kind of like in shock, either get put back in bed or you go back to bed. And now you're like, you need some soothing, but you're not going to go get it there because that's
Yeah.
scary. So,
Yeah.
what are the strategies that you as a person might develop to self soothe?
Yeah.
You're going to like start to bite your nails, are you going to rock, are you going to start crafting narratives in your mind to distract you?
Yeah, I think I might do that a lot.
Yeah.
Well, and also I stayed grounded so much in middle school. I was stuck in my room. I didn't have anything to do but write, like, because there wasn't the internet or nothing. Like,
Right.
and just so I filled up diaries full of stuff, which gave me a great head start at being a songwriter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, but I think I just keep myself so busy I don't have to deal with anything.
Right. And so that's a classic strategy,
Yeah.
right? Busy parts
Yeah.
that keep you from feeling something deeper, that's more painful,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So their job is to keep
distraction.
that exiled part that's way deep from overwhelming you,
Yeah.
right? Because then, in the primitive understanding of your brain, you'd die
Yeah.
if that exiled part, like got the bit, right?
That's so wild. Like, and I feel like people are so shaped by just how their parents talk to them.
Totally.
I feel like the parents, the things they say to the kid becomes the kid's internal dialogue
Mhm.
because I don't know who said it to me all the time, but I still hear it. Like, we went to see Tony Robbins, who I just love Tony Robbins. Like, and we went to see him, and like, he really breaks down a lot of stuff. Like, he's just learned from everybody else pretty much. But the thing, like, he says, everybody has this like dominant question or thing they think about, like from childhood and stuff.
Mhm.
And mine was, and it doesn't have to be a question, it can be a statement, but mine was, you don't know what you're doing. So I sit down to do stuff, like no matter what it is. And that's that voice. I don't know who told me that or where that came from, but I feel that way all the time. Like I don't know what I'm doing.
Mhm.
And I don't even know what that means exactly,
Right.
but that's something I struggle with.
So that would be actually a really interesting question to take into a ketamine session,
That is good. That's right.
right?
So when you do ketamine, like, I didn't think about this before, like, you can just start off with an intention.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. And with intention, kind of going back to the idea that it's really not helpful to come in with the intention being, I never want to feel sad or depressed again.
Yeah.
But the intention to kind of like, I want to get to know this part of me that's I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah. Why am
Right.
I doing that?
Yeah. Where is that?
Yeah.
And you could start with questions like, where do I feel it in my body? When I think I don't know what I'm doing, where does it show up in this thing?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Right. And sometimes if you can kind of figure out where you feel it, then you're like, oh, it's like a trailhead. You're like, oh, that's going there.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah. Because then you can kind of take care of the feeling.
Mhm.
You can be like, oh, I always feel this heaviness
And
in my
address
chest.
it.
Right.
So maybe you don't have to keep feeling it.
Yeah, well, in the parts language, we would say, does I don't know what I'm doing, love their job? Would they like to change jobs? You know, maybe have more fun?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a
Mhm.
good question. I feel like I don't know what I'm doing though, no matter what I'm doing. It wouldn't even matter. You know what? If I switched, I think I just got told that about stuff.
Right.
I can't really quite figure it out because I've tried to dissect it before. Like, who was telling me this? It would have to be my dad. And he sure as hell didn't know what he was doing. Like, I think, like, by the time I was 6, like, everybody was probably shocked I was still alive. Like, just having him for a dad. Like,
Yeah.
he just did the dumbest, most dangerous stuff. Like, throw me up like 10 feet, just throw me so high as an infant. No, people don't do that. Like,
No.
like, everybody always talked about how crazy my dad was, but it's like, when you get grown and you look back and you hear
Right.
these stories and
Yeah.
stuff, it's like, and he used to scare the shit out of everybody. I think he screwed my adrenal glands by the time I was probably 3.
Yeah.
And so I think it's real hard to shock me or anything, and he scared everybody so much all the time for fun. I've never done that to our kids.
Yeah, right, you're, like, correcting that
Yeah.
wound.
I have the urges sometimes, but I'd never do it.
Yeah,
Just
right.
because it really, like, it wasn't good for anybody. He would just be under the bed. Well, no, he was too fat to get under the bed, but he would just be behind a door or something and grab you, when you walked in and just scare you to death.
That was his version of fun, huh?
Yeah. And he shaved his head bald when I was 3. And like, he was doing it to scare my mom. But my world was so crazy that when I woke up first and tapped him, I was like, "Hey, I'm Amy. What's your name?" And then it scared her. And then the bed broke and she started swinging and hitting him because he started laughing and woke her up.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, just stuff like that because somebody bald looks completely different.
Totally.
She didn't know who he was, so it wasn't even that weird. I didn't know
Right.
who he was, but I think he just shot off everybody's nerves all the time, like
Yeah.
to where you still have to deal with that forever.
Right.
Like,
Right.
we're all dealing with stuff somebody did to us, when we were little.
Mhm. Yeah, so ketamine, one way that it can help is, if you've done therapy before, that kind of like in traditional therapy, it's like you start to get to the point where you're feeling comfortable enough to share the story.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, our time is up. You know what I mean? And that's like, I've had so many patients say, I hear that one more time,
Oh
I'm
my
going to claw
gosh.
my eyeballs out, right? Just because it's like so frustrating
Yes.
to finally get there. And then you're like, it's going to rinse and repeat next time, right? Because
It's probably hard to find a good therapist too. I think I had maybe one good therapist. I've been to a few, but then Chris and me both went to this marriage therapist and it got to the point all we did was talk about her dog. Like every time we went in there, we never or we'd get in a bigger fight in there and then leave. But I did have one therapist that was great,
Yeah.
like she really made me think about things different. And that's what you want from a
Right.
therapist.
Yeah, you want to like change. You want to
Yeah,
move.
and get them to show you and teach you how to give yourself some mercy,
Mhm.
and
Right.
like, or whatever your problem is.
Yeah, for the most part, self-love,
Yeah.
can correct a lot.
Yeah.
right? And then it starts to kind of translate to
Do you
loving
think
others.
ketamine does that, helps people with self-love?
So process-wise, if the work begins when the medicine ends,
Yeah.
and then you kinda spend the night, usually within a day, there's, like, a time set aside with a therapist to do something called integration. And so integration is really just listening, from a therapist's perspective. It's like, "Okay, Amy, so, you described kind of the scene in the bedroom and then the
Yeah.
crystal structure
Yeah.
coming up around you. Like, tell me more about what that means." Like,
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, that's
right?
why this would work so good talking about it after.
Yeah, right. Because you're kind of loosened up, but sometimes what ends up happening is that visual image might actually be a metaphor for something else,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So one client, basically spent the whole ketamine session feeling like she was just looking at a brick wall and she was just getting madder and madder. And she comes out of it and she was like, "No, that was the worst thing I've ever done." I just sat there. And then the next day when we talked, it was like night school that said, "Hey, actually, it was perfect because that's what I do to myself. I park these brick walls in front of myself." And she was like, "I noticed after thinking about it for a while that I could see the edges of this brick wall. And if I'd wanted to, I could have just walked around it."
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Right?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so again, just kind of like thinking about how kind of the mind speaks to us in metaphors and archetypes. Another experience. So sometimes people will think of ketamine as like, well, it's not LSD, it's not psilocybin, it's easy, right?
What do you mean, easy?
Well, people might think that it's like, not as intense
Oh,
of
okay.
a psychedelic
Yeah,
experience
yeah.
as some other medications. And it's definitely not true. Like, some people that I've worked with have had much more intense experiences on ketamine than on psilocybin or LSD or MDMA. So, it's not like a just because it's legal, right? It's not
Why
sloppy
how
seconds.
is it legal
Yeah.
and mushrooms aren't legal?
Yeah,
That's a
so
good
that is
question.
a good question. So, let's go back to the war on drugs.
Mhm.
Okay, so ketamine has never not been legal. Essentially. So it is a drug used in
Oh, yeah, to put people to
ORs.
sleep.
Yeah, every day. World Health Organization lists it as one of the 10 most important medications for mankind,
Oh, wow.
right? So, ketamine, always legal, but this use of it to treat mental health is still not FDA approved, except for one drug, and that's called Spravato, which is a nasal spray. So a lot of that kind of regulatory stuff has to do with how we make money as an
Yeah,
industry.
yeah.
Okay. So go back to the war on drugs, and that was like President Nixon. I'm from Memphis. And so that picture of like Nixon and Elvis shaking hands, it's just like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh. Cause I mean, poor Elvis.
It
Like, poor Elvis.
that whole thing is
That whole
crazy.
thing. It was crazy, right? It was a PR.
It's all PR, I feel
Yeah.
like, all of it. Like,
Right.
isn't it crazy the government gave it to people first?
Yeah.
I mean, that's how screwed
Right.
up the government is.
Right. One of my neighbors was actually a guy who it might have been the Vietnam era, or it might have been a little bit before that. But anyways, he was part of this unit that they experimented on by giving them hallucinogens like over and over and over and over again. Yeah, Dennis Paul. Lovely guy. There's might be a documentary out about him
Okay, I
now.
wanna look that
Yeah,
up.
yeah. And he's like a living legend right out there in Scottsboro, Davidson County, right? Yeah, but so, there was a lot of mystique around these things, and I think as we've come to understand just like consciousness a little bit more,
Yeah,
we still really don't know much about it, but
yeah,
a little bit more, right? They're not like truth serums,
yeah,
you know?
yeah,
And I think in these above board, well-intentioned use cases where people have the intention to heal their own inner wounds, you know, they've established track records as being really safe. So, but within the war on drugs, it feels like it was also the war on drugs was just a big distraction from hippie culture that was anti-authoritarian and,
Yeah.
didn't want to join the military and that sort of thing. So they just kind of criminalized everything. And MDMA was one of the last things to
What is
be
MDMA?
criminalized. So
I hear about it all the
yeah,
time. And how's it work? Does it work quick like ketamine, or is it?
the street name is ecstasy,
Oh, ecstasy. I haven't done that,
right?
but yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah. So I'm not going to butcher what MDMA stands for, but it is actually not a hallucinogen. It's something called an empathogen, and it's an amphetamine kind of derivative.
Uh-huh.
So just imagine kind of like focused attention, for like 3 or 4 hours.
Mm-hmm.
That's very narrative,
Yeah.
right? So really different from like psilocybin, where, a lot more loose, more spiritual,
I love it. Yeah,
right?
psilocybin to me is just the spiritual part of it. That's the part, you know what I mean? That
Mhm.
like somebody told me, I've done it a few times, and somebody told me that it was good to help with grief. And
Hey.
it really did. After my dad died, so shocking and so
Mhm.
young, like somebody told me that. And then I did it by myself. Like I kept seeing these pink lotus everywhere. I didn't even know what that flower was.
Oh, wow.
But that turns out it's one of the most spiritual flower. There's meanings and
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
behind it.
Right.
But like that, yeah, that was a crazy night. I was by myself. And I recorded it. I don't know where I recorded audio. I came across it about 10 years ago, and it was just like, oh shit, this is so crazy. But it was awesome. It was
Yeah.
awesome.
I mean, that's kind of like what we generally encourage is for people to have a guide.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, you need a guide.
Yeah,
I was
you
by
need a guide.
myself.
Right.
Yeah.
And so if nothing else, just to have somebody to kind of like hold that calm, anchoring presence.
Yeah.
Right. So that you can kind of like go out into the cosmos, and
I
do your
remember
work.
I Googled what to do when you're tripping on mushrooms.
At least you can
Googled it.
Google it,
I know. So it's been about 20 years ago, but like it did help me with my grief, though. It
Yeah.
really did.
Right.
But I think I went into it with the intention for that,
Yeah. So psilocybin's been really well studied, and probably the kind of largest population that's been looked at is people with cancer.
Yeah.
And so people with cancer who have a fear of dying.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've read about this.
Yeah. So about 60% of those after one psilocybin session really lose their fear of dying.
Yeah.
Right?
I get it. I
Yeah.
get it. I totally get it. I remember reading something about they were doing some kind of therapy with people who had like major unresolved issues with their family, but they were dying. Like, so say they're dying of cancer, but there's just some heavy, heavy shit between this family. And then they would do these therapies to make everybody be able to accept it
Mhm.
and to heal. And it just worked wonders.
Right. And the big cautionary tale that you have to kind of like think about before you go taking a bunch of mushrooms,
Yeah.
if you're dying of cancer,
Yeah.
is you want to have, first of all, it's kind of an athletic event,
Yeah.
to take
You
some
need to have a
mushrooms.
therapist or somebody to help
You
y'all.
need to have help. And if it's going to really shake the snow globe, like in your matrix of the people and the relationships around you, you want to have enough time left in your life
Yeah.
to resolve this,
Yeah.
right? Like that you have time and enough health, right?
hmm
To, kind of handle that extra work
Yeah.
that's suddenly
Yeah,
showing
totally.
up, right? When the medicine ends. So this is where I think ketamine, especially for people who are navigating life-threatening or life-shortening illness, ketamine doesn't last as long. It's
Mhm.
about an hour as opposed to
Yeah, it
psilocybin,
seems
which
like
is
they're totally
Yeah.
different.
right.
Like, because mushrooms, they have to kick in like 45 minutes later or
Mhm.
something.
Right.
And then ketamine, I never really understood how it worked. I didn't really understand how you can go in, like do the therapy and then just get up and leave. You know what I mean? It's
No,
like,
it is-
what?
I mean, I grew up in the 80s, right? It's just like, I mean, every day, I'm like, is this we really doing this? Yeah, it's
I
wild.
love hearing your like thoughts too on the war on drugs.
Mhm.
The thing that made me think is, well, there wasn't no war on drugs when it came to like opiates. That's the war that
Right.
needed to happen on
Right.
drugs.
I
And they
mean-
ignored it. They don't even
Totally.
care. That Sackler family never got in any trouble.
I know.
And
I
they did
know.
it on purpose.
Right.
And so we're going to outlaw mushrooms and then they're going to let people do, you know what I mean? It's
Right.
awful.
Well, and that actually brings up just kind of the complicated nature of so the war on drugs is still going on,
Yeah.
right? So we
Yeah.
still have criminalized, most things. And even here in Tennessee, like cannabis,
Everything's
right?
illegal in
Yeah.
Tennessee.
In general, the people that pay the price in the war on drugs are the poor,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then, we do have prison systems that make money and it's kind of challenging,
Yeah.
But with how the FDA, right, is in charge of that drug schedule, the Food and Drug Administration. So there's schedules 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So schedule 1 is thought to have no use in any way, shape, or form for a human.
Mhm.
Okay. And so that's things literally like cannabis,
Yeah.
right? And psilocybin
They
and MD.
say it doesn't have any
They say that
good
it doesn't.
qualities.
Well, exactly. And so those weren't declarations made based in science. They were declarations made, politically.
Yeah.
And then Schedule 2 are things like, some opioids. Schedule 3 is like some other opioids. Schedule 4 is like things like, some of the anxiety medications, right? And then Schedule 5 is like basically not restricted.
Yeah.
Okay. So there've been several studies now that have been done with the intent to get the FDA to reschedule psilocybin, MDMA, and LSD.
Where do you think the future's going on psychedelics for? Because nobody really understands the brain that good, I don't feel like.
Right.
I see talks all the time. If I was going to be in the medical field in any way, it would definitely be to do with the brain.
Yeah.
Because it's fascinating. It's fascinating how it works. And it's a mystery, you
But
know?
Amy, now it's like we're aware that probably a lot of our thoughts come from here.
I know.
It's not even the brain anymore.
I know.
Right? And then
It's
it's not even
crazy.
it's like the rhythm and the electrical forces,
Yes.
right?
Yeah,
So
it's really wild.
it is wild.
Einstein and Tesla both said that everything's frequencies.
Right.
That's what made me think of.
Yeah.
That's how everything works. And those are like the two most smart guys that ever lived, you
Right.
know, and they're trying to tell people. I don't know. Do you think it's going to turn where mushrooms grow out of the ground?
Right.
That's the thing that pisses me off. People go make opiates and they know how addictive they are. You don't see people running their life on mushrooms.
Right. So it's a really good point, Amy. The thing is, let's talk about cannabis for a second as an example. So there are kids that develop seizures that parents basically figured out they could use cannabinoids to treat their kids' seizures.
My best friend's daughter.
Right.
They have to go buy weed illegally because it helps her seizures.
Yeah. Well, so there's a drug that is patented, that's a patented cannabinoid for pediatric seizures. Okay. So the company had to figure it all out, do all the trials, do all the lobbying to get the FDA to approve it and that sort of thing. And, I wouldn't quote me, but I'm in the ballpark. It's about $30,000 a month for this drug.
I heard about that drug. That's
Right?
why they were going and buying the weed.
Yeah,
because
it's called
that drug-
Epidiolex.
And I don't
right?
think insurance covered it either.
Right. So if you're a parent facing this, you're like, it's a fool's errand and it's humiliating,
Yeah.
right? To think, oh, what stands between my child's safety and well-being is this $30,000 price tag.
Yeah.
And that comes up again and again in healthcare, right?
Yeah.
So now we've got a similar situation with something that grows naturally, right? They're not hard to grow.
Yeah.
Okay. Weed is not hard to grow. Okay. Now, there are reasonable safeguards that should be in place for people who are seeking this out and don't know much about it.
Yeah.
Like your experience with mushrooms, like didn't know what you're doing. You're scraping the stuff
Yeah.
out of the body, right?
Yeah.
And, riding in a boat.
Yeah.
And
No,
so,
we didn't get in the boat.
Oh, good. Yay!
Yeah.
That's why I'm still
Yeah.
here. But, if, let's say I'm a parent of a 20-year-old who's, dying of cancer and they're terrified of dying.
Yeah.
And I read the study that says we have a 60% chance of relieving my child's fear of dying.
Yeah.
And I live here in Tennessee and she's not terribly sick, but to travel to Oregon is, like, beyond our reach,
Yeah.
you know? And I don't even know the first thing about how to find a person there,
Yeah.
right? So, these are the kinds of things that I think are really tragic in our system right now because the data is there. The safety, the dosing, all the things are there. And so what's standing in the way? And I mean, I'm
Money.
just a peon, but, generally, yes, it's like go where the money is,
Yeah.
right? So how are they going to figure out, how to fix this? And what are the drug companies, doing who make the antidepressants that that's kind of like all there is now?
Yeah.
And we've got a thing that's like maybe 2 or 3 sessions and you don't need any medications anymore. That's, a fifth of our economy is, rooted in healthcare. And so, like, we don't wanna, like, tump the apple cart there.
It's so sad.
It is sad.
It's so sad to me. It's like, I mean, even just like people that go and fight for America, get hurt, get completely fucked in the head, like because they're doing things they wouldn't have done normally.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then they got to come back here and try to figure out how to live with it and deal with it and think about it. And they have like all these, just problems they come back with. And then telling those people they can't do treatments that have shown to help.
Right.
It makes me sick.
Yeah. No, cures for moral injury. We need more of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, going back to what may happen is if the drugs do get legalized, they get rescheduled, and they get approved, and then there's a manufacturer, I doubt it's gonna be a small player,
Yeah.
right? It's gonna be like a big player, like
Yeah.
Bayer or Lilly or, one of those multinational vertically integrated entities. So what am I gonna say to a client of mine who's like, "Well, now a dose of psilocybin is $30,000,
Yeah.
right?" And so, I mean, just speaking frankly and from the heart, I suspect it'll be just like the cannabis story, right?
Yeah.
That people will continue to be resourceful, and figure it out. And I'm sad about that because I wish that the healing arts, right, the profession could just fully embrace what our potential is,
Yeah.
you know? And we probably need to quit trying to be publicly traded and, keep
Yeah.
private equity out
It
and
should just not even be legal that lobbyists can go talk people like just that job shouldn't even be legal. You
right.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
That they what? That
Right.
it doesn't make sense. When I'm sure you have this experience like trying to talk to your daughters, like and trying to even talk to my daughter about the government. She's just like, I mean, I can't even imagine what they really think. It's
Right.
so screwed up. And the things that, like, how people that should get in trouble never do. And the people that, like, people get in trouble that didn't even do anything.
Right. Right.
It's so crazy to me. But the lobbyist thing, like, I want to interview a lobbyist like that probably isn't one anymore,
Right, right.
but to know more how that works.
Yeah. It was funny because a few years ago, I was involved in, like, some of the state legislation for the legalization of medical marijuana. And it's one of the things I love about psychedelics is it's like it kind of dissolves political parties because everybody's affected by, mental health
Yeah.
and pain and difficult to manage illnesses that Western medicine really doesn't have like a great tool for,
Mhm.
right? And so that was really beautiful. It didn't really get there yet.
Where is Tennessee on that?
Obviously, you see like billboards, kind of advertising cannabis, right? But it has to be at the time of harvest below 0.9% THC content. Now, it seems to me, and again, I'm not as dialed in on this legislation now as I used to be, but it's like they can still concentrate it after harvest. So is it like, does it
Well, we
really
were in
matter?
Chattanooga and there was like a shop selling all kinds of shit,
Yeah, right.
like, and it
And
was like, what? Chris like was sending me pictures of this stuff, and I'm like, where are you?
right.
Like, because I didn't know you could buy that, in the store.
Yeah. No, and so I think it's basically just it's a at harvest amount of THC, and then they can kind of manufacture or process it however they want since
It's so
yeah.
crazy.
And then kratom, I don't even get
What
me
the
started.
I've already heard just some terrible stories about kratom, and how is that legal?
Right. I
How
know.
is that legal?
Yeah.
Like, what is that? It's like fake pain pills or
It's an
something?
opioid. Yeah.
I can't believe that's legal.
Yeah, and it's really been, kind of challenging because people are coming to me, and I treat people with opioid addiction, and it's just like to me, it's just like part of good healthcare. And the hardest thing about kratom is they had no idea, like,
Yeah.
when they got started, where this was going.
I know somebody who had been to rehab, they were doing great.
Mhm.
Somehow they started taking that kratom stuff,
Yeah.
and then they started spending a bunch of money on it and then went right back to rehab, but they got so sad just watching them. They were I mean, it was so sad to watch.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, it was heartbreaking. I can't
Right.
believe that's legal.
I know. So, back to ketamine.
Yeah, so does ketamine help people with addiction? Like here's the weird thing. Okay, you hear things like it can help people with addiction, and then I think whatever happened with Matthew Perry
Mm,
just took it back about 100 years,
right.
because that's all people heard, that word, and it
Yeah.
had to do with him. And I don't even understand how somebody could get that addicted to To me, the thought, I don't even understand how you would function in life
Right.
at all.
Well, ketamine can be habit forming. Okay. And, we know a lot about that from ketamine's use, vitamin K. It was a street drug, I mean, it's been
What's
around for
the
a long time.
vitamin K is the
The name
nickname?
of the street drug,
Oh,
right?
gotcha, gotcha.
And it's a pretty vicious one to get addicted to because you get tolerance really quickly.
Oh, is that what was happening with him?
Yeah, and with him, it was not just ketamine, it was, like, tons of other things.
Yeah.
And Matthew Perry had a history of addiction, so that's something that you're right, there are ways for us to use ketamine to help someone kind of rewrite the story of their own addiction, right? So,
Yeah.
in early sobriety from alcohol, groups that are cohorted to kind of take ketamine together and then process their, kind of experiences together, like a lot like an AA kind of circle, they really are able to maintain their sobriety much more effectively,
That
right?
sounds like a great idea to me.
Yeah, right.
Like a AA therapy mixed together.
Exactly, like as a group,
Yeah.
right? And we know that like AA, one of the reasons that it works is that community that gets
Yes.
formed, right?
Yes. My brother, like, he's sober. I don't know that he's been sober since he was 14. And I'm so proud of him. I pray for him every day. I'm so proud of him because, like, sometimes people get sober that you never dreamed would get sober. Like, it's
Right.
those people,
Yes.
and like, I feel like he's just like a different it's
Mhm.
amazing to me. It's really a beautiful thing. He's doing so good. Like, and I'm so proud of him. My mom is. He's so proud of himself because he's
Good.
got a license, he's got a car, he's got all the stuff that he hadn't had for so long.
Yeah.
But also, he was living in Alabama, and they'll put you in jail for chewing gum in Alabama. Alabama sucks as far as the jail system. Like, have you seen the Alabama Solution?
No.
Oh my gosh, it's one of the best documentaries I've ever seen. Like, I need to look and see if it won an Oscar because it should have. Like, that documentary was made by prisoners, like, in jail, and they were risking their life to do it. These guards were killing people. It's one of the most unreal things. Like, but it kind of shows you, like, the thing with what you said, the war on drugs, how much of ketamine, like what people generally think about it, do you think has been spread like by the government or by people kind of trying to demonize it? Just like
Mm.
weed a long time ago.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't know that I have a good answer for that. I think that what is challenging for people, myself included, like when I started thinking, all right, I'm going to give people a hallucinogen in my office,
Yeah.
right? That feels weird.
Yeah.
And there's like a lot of shame. There's a lot of baggage around the kind of, it feels like we're doing drugs here.
Yeah.
I mean, just quite frankly,
Oh, yeah. That's
you know?
good. I think that's very important to talk about
Yeah,
because I think that would stop a lot of people from doing it that need
right.
it.
That's right. And, and especially if you've kind of grown up and been terrified or mortified of any drugs,
Yeah.
like that fall into that war on drugs kind of like
Yeah.
classification, right? And you're right, like opioids, we give those out like
Like candy.
candy, right? Or benzos,
Yeah.
Xanax, Ativan,
And I've
you know?
heard Xanax is so hard to get off of. I've
Yeah.
heard it's a nightmare.
Well, I mean, we have to do some pretty elaborate deprescribing to get people to come off of it so that they don't get really sick,
Come off of
right?
Xanax?
Xanax,
Yeah, it's
Ativan,
weird. It's
Klonopin.
like Xanax really seems like something you just take. So every day you take the Xanax so you don't have to deal with anything and you never get anywhere. That's what it seems like. I don't
Right.
really know.
Well, I mean, there are some pretty good legitimate, kind of opportunities to use the medication.
But is it lifelong?
Shouldn't be,
Yeah.
right? I
Just to
mean,
get through something like a
yeah,
shock.
right. Like a shock, right? Or if you have really terrible panic attacks
Yeah.
and while we're doing something else, just to keep, because panic attacks are like, it's like a life or death
They're
kind of
serious.
experience.
I didn't realize how
Yeah.
serious panic attacks are.
Yeah.
Like one of my sons has really bad panic attacks. Like for me, I'm just like, well, this isn't true, and they're just like,
Right.
you're crazy. You
Yeah.
don't understand how this works.
Yeah, yeah.
You can't calm yourself down. That's the whole point.
Right.
It's a panic attack and you're not in charge of it.
Right. It's like you're not deciding this.
Yeah. And if you
Yeah.
hadn't had that kind of experience and you think you're dying and they think they're dying, it's like you don't really understand it right.
Right.
You think you can talk yourself out of it, kind of.
Yeah, and that's just kinda like the same old saw about, like, pull yourself up by your bootstraps,
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
well, if there's no boots, right,
Yeah.
we're not gonna get very far,
Yeah.
right? So, yeah, just compassion around,
What?
people's.
So, I'm curious, what do you think people should know? So, if you got somebody who's like anti-drugs, they just like bad when they think about
Mhm.
ketamine, what do you think they should know about it?
Yeah, that is a really good question. So I think that, first of all, just the understanding it's a legitimate medical treatment,
It's
right?
medicine.
It's medicine. And if you've had a surgery, chances are good you've had ketamine already.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Or Versed is kind of a similar drug, that kind of twilight anesthesia. And so just kind of like debunking, right?
Yeah.
That. And then, kind of going back to the cravings and the addiction and then Matthew Perry's ultimate death, right?
Yeah.
That was tragic. And of course, he was surrounded by people who were using him.
They didn't give a shit about him.
They didn't, right. So that's not legitimate medical care either,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah, he never went to a doctor for ketamine.
Right.
He just went, or maybe he did once in the beginning. I don't really know.
Right. I mean, it could have started in a good way,
Yeah.
but what we, really kind of covenant around, like, it's a sacred act, right? To kind of engage in healing with people, especially in these, like, when you're on ketamine, as it's like a very intimate
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
And so we have all kinds of like moral and ethical kind of rituals and practices that we're doing, right?
Yeah.
We engage in safety. There's, explicit conversations about safe touch, what
Yeah.
constitutes
Yeah.
that, right? Because there are a lot of people who were touched in a very unsafe way in their life.
hmm
And so we're going to talk about that when you're in your ordinary consciousness before you have ketamine, so that we never violate the sanctity of your, kind of ordinary consciousness decision making about what constitutes safe touch, right? And I think this just, kind of makes me want to go back to the history of psychedelics in general. There have just been some really unfortunate ethical violations
Yeah.
within the psychedelic world, okay? And, between instances of people like Matthew Perry and then some of the psychedelic space ethical violations, it has set the whole field way back.
It's so sad.
It is. It is.
Really, to me, is so sad because antidepressants, I think we might have talked about it. Like, I tried to kill myself when I was 19 and I was on antidepressants, and they later found that they cause suicidal
Right.
feelings in teenagers.
Yes.
I wasn't suicide. I was sad. I wasn't suicidal. And then I got on that medicine,
Right.
and it changed everything about my brain. Like everything. It just like, I love that saying about that suicide is a permanent solution for a temporary problem. That's
Right.
one of the best things I ever heard about suicide. Like,
Mhm.
and so like if somebody came into the office suicidal, I mean, I wouldn't think antidepressants were going to help them much. Like you need to probably put them up somewhere for a little bit.
Yeah, and hospitals, are not necessarily a great experience for someone who's very depressed,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, that's one of the kind of the themes. Like we will certainly refer people to a hospital stay if that's the best place for them because they're not feeling safe from themselves.
Yeah.
But, many people have had the experience where they go into the hospital and they need time. But the hospital and the way that medical economics work now, it's like they're gonna get 3 days, or 5 days, and they're just gonna get plowed with medications
Yeah.
to the point that they're like, "Well, I don't feel anything."
Yeah.
And then they come out and there we are kind of trying to pick up the pieces again and adjust those medications and, you know, figuring it out, and it's really not healing, you know?
Yeah.
It's why, I think one of my favorite things that I'm so hopeful about, like, this modern age and don't bust my bubble. I gotta believe in this, but it's like, if information is cheap, right? With AI, we can just, like,
Oh,
access
yeah.
information, like, really quickly now. What we have to get good at, as human healers, right, is connecting.
Yeah.
We've spent 25 years now not connecting.
Yeah.
It's like, "Give me my Netflix and my DoorDash and, like, don't call me,"
Yeah.
and people are falling apart.
Yeah.
We need connection.
We do. And they say the people that live the longest, they've studied people, community.
Right. Yeah. So if people are interested in longevity, like, then we just gotta do more together, and it's hard,
Yeah.
right? Because there's
Especially since COVID, everybody's working at home.
right. And it's like people, right? I mean, I don't even like myself half the time, right? And so, like, being with others, like, we kind of bump up against each other. I just got back from spring break with my dad and my 3
Oh
daughters
my gosh. Was it
in one
fun
car.
and crazy?
Yeah, yeah, it was great. It was really great. Yeah, but of course, there's like, like,
Yeah.
"What are you doing?"
Yeah.
Right? Just like horses do that with each other, stamp.
I love that. What are you doing?
Yeah,
I
right?
feel like I ask that every time we go somewhere as
Yeah.
a family.
See, that's like you just heard it in a different way, Amy. It was like, "You don't know what you're doing." And you're like you turn it around, you're like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what are you doing? Like, I mean, because our kids just aggravate the shit out of each other.
Yeah.
It's like, just stop. But they're having fun,
Right.
but it's stressing us out.
Yes,
But they enjoy it, actually.
right.
That's one thing I just figured out right now talking about it.
Yeah.
So, like, who do you think ketamine's best for? Is it
Mm.
good for, like, if you have PTSD or regular depression, or what if somebody's suicide? Like, all the different things.
Yeah. So, kind of most rapid acting antidepressant that we have. Okay. And so if someone's suicidal, it can be an alternative to hospitalization, but there has to be kind of the perfect situation.
Like, you have to be watched a little bit.
You have to have some support,
Yeah.
right? And you kind of have to say, I don't, it's like there's suicidality, that's like active and just almost irresistible. And then there's people that are like passive, and so this would be more of a situation where, someone's like not dead set on harming
Yeah.
themselves, right? And close follow up. So it's a pretty
What if
kind of
they
like,
just, they always say if somebody makes comments, you got to really listen if they're
Yeah.
making comments
Right.
about stuff. Like, what if somebody was doing that? Would you, like, say somebody had somebody in their family that had made a couple comments that made them nervous, like,
Mhm.
and they were scared for them?
Right.
With ketamine, do you think that would be a good thing?
I kind of hesitate to say like,
Yeah.
a person that's having that kind of expression, like just needs a drug.
Because everybody's different too.
Everybody's different, right? So really it's like that expression says, I need some help,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
I'm hurting in
Yeah.
some way, and so when people get to the point where they're like saying it out loud,
Mhm.
that's really like a call. Like, does anybody listen? Is someone hearing
Oh,
me?
yeah, that's so
Right?
true. That's
Yeah.
so true. They're kind of just seeing if anybody cares.
Yeah, right. Like fishing a little bit.
Yeah. I
which
never
is
thought about
reasonable,
that before,
right?
but that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So just kind of like pausing and saying, "Hey, I've heard you say that. And I'm really curious, like, do you feel comfortable telling me anything else about that?
Yeah.
Right? Do you feel safe? Is there a way that, I might be able to help you?"
Yeah.
You know? And then really it starts to get into kind of like what would be appropriate. So there's very few medical contraindications to ketamine. It's like active thyroid, kind of stuff going on or active liver disease but again, thinking about how ketamine's used in operating rooms around the world all the
Yeah.
time, like there's a lot of experience with ketamine compared to other psychedelics, right? That haven't been studied so much in people with chronic disease,
Yeah.
right? So ketamine's the best kind of studied, and then it also plays well with others. So you can be on an antidepressant, whereas with psilocybin, we're just starting to
They get
get good at
nervous with psilocybin. I've
yeah,
looked into some of those
yeah,
retreats. Like, they get nervous about, like, triggering bipolar and
right,
doing all there's a lot of things, like, they worry about with that.
right. And so again, with ketamine, if a patient is bipolar, but in a depressed phase, we
Mhm.
can use ketamine,
Mhm.
right?
What if they're on somebody asked me, "What if they're on antidepressants? Can they do
They
ketamine?"
can. Yeah. So, like I said, it plays well with others. There's very few medications that you can't take and be on ketamine.
Oh,
Okay.
wow, okay.
Yeah. And for most of those, we can just hold them for a little while. We don't have to have you taper off and, kind of do a lot of prep and background work,
Yeah.
right?
How did you go from, like, you had that one experience, your very first experience that you ever had heard anything about ketamine and that
Mhm.
patient to, like, thinking this is helping people?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it was that I met people that had been treated with ketamine and they were doing really well. And one of the things that I love about it is that I kind of put things into buckets of like there's daily meds for depression and anxiety and PTSD, and then there's non-daily meds,
Mhm.
right? And so these non-daily meds like ketamine, they really fix some of the problems that the daily meds bring people. So antidepressants have, kind of two main side effects aside from not working very well.
Yeah,
So one is like a reduction in libido. So a
yeah,
lot of people have sexual side effects from these
yeah,
drugs, and it's like maybe you're not sad or depressed anymore, but you're blunted. Like
yeah.
that affect we're talking
Yeah,
about, it's
when
just
I
like
was on those antidepressants, when I tried to kill myself, like, the best way I remember describing it was like I was on a float in the middle of the ocean. I just didn't care. I
yeah,
didn't care if a shark bit me in half. I didn't care about anything.
yeah,
Like, so it made me not just insanely depressed, but I just didn't care.
right.
But those got taken off the market. So,
Mm,
like, but I have tried other antidepressants and, like, for me, I haven't found one that worked good. I like I'm on Lamictal.
yeah, right,
Like, and Lamictal has helped me.
yeah,
They say it stops the firing of the neurons in your brain from bop, 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 bop,
yeah,
like, and slows it down a little
slow it
bit.
down a little bit.
That's not even an antidepressant.
Nope,
It's like for
it's an
seizures.
anti-epileptic drug. Yep,
Yeah.
and then it's used as a mood
But
stabilizer.
that's the first thing that ever worked, a mood stabilizer.
Mhm.
That's the first thing that ever worked for me for real. Like, before Lamictal, I was walking around like looking, I just saw everything that was wrong everywhere I looked. And then after a few days on Lamictal, I was walking around, I'm like, oh, that's so pretty. You know what I mean? Like, that might be tore up, but that's so pretty.
Uh-huh.
Like, I was seeing the good stuff again.
Yeah, right,
Like, but I think Lamictal's a tricky medicine too. You got to do a bunch of stuff to make sure you're doing it right and
right.
titrate and all that stuff.
Exactly.
But that probably helped me more than any medicine ever has.
Right. So ketamine and Lamictal, we just basically give, ketamine at least 6 hours before you take the Lamictal again. And it
So it
just
works good with it.
it does. And it's just one that, it's like it's overlapping with the enzymes in the liver that metabolize the drugs, right? So we just try to space them out so that they're just like not interfering with each other.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So back to kind of who's a good candidate. I mean, honestly, I like people who are kind of curious about ketamine,
yeah,
because if we take someone who's afraid of it, we've had that before. And that's where the IV really comes in because it's like, if you're curious but still have a lot of like reservations, usually one can be reassured by just saying, "Hey, if we start and it doesn't feel right, we just turn it off."
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And we can even do these little baby doses. They're called psycholytic doses, where it's just like a tiny subcutaneous dose and keeping eyes open and no music, and we're just having a conversation. And typically like 10 minutes in, you're like, "Oh, wow, this is like so fun." And you kind of have forgotten that you've had a dose of ketamine.
Yeah.
And then you're like, "Oh, if it's gonna be like this would be okay." Right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. People are just scared.
yeah, so it's a legitimate medical treatment, and I think that for people who have taken medications and they just aren't working, there starts to become kind of like that sense of
I
desperation,
know. And it's
right?
so sad. It's
Yeah,
so sad because you feel hopeless.
right. Yeah,
Like, and that's the thing, so many people try things, they don't work, they feel hopeless, and then they feel like they're gonna go to hell for you know what I mean?
right,
Like people that are just raised in a certain way where they're just taught things are wrong. It's like, I don't know. That's how I've always felt about like so many things. But then at the same time, like a lot of those people are eating opiates. It's the weirdest thing to
right.
me.
Well, and I think you're right, it's about the cultural acceptance,
Yeah.
right?
And they demonize it for a reason.
Mhm.
Have you seen it not work? Have you seen it just be a disaster? Does that
Totally.
happen?
Yeah. Again, it's like we can't like sensationalize it,
Yeah.
right? Ketamine's not a cure-all.
Yeah.
So for about 80% of people that have ketamine treatments, they get at least 50% better.
Oh,
And
that's
that's like
amazing.
on a rating scale.
I bet antidepressants aren't that good,
Now they're about 35 to 40%.
but don't they kind of wane out?
It can. Yeah. So to me, kind of like having done this for a while, you know, 20% of people not responding is a lot of people,
Yeah.
right? That's 1 in 5.
Yeah.
And so that's an important thing to convey. It's like,
Yeah.
this is an experience, right? And we're going to be hopeful. We say things like firm convictions loosely held, right?
Yeah.
Like have an intention, but don't have a demand,
Mhm.
right? And in general, things go much better when it's like that and to understand that it's a process. So what we're doing is like trying to re-resource the brain, help you change habits. You know, I'm really excited to actually start combining ketamine therapy with another treatment that we've found is super helpful,
What is it?
ketogenic diets for mental health.
What's that?
Oh, yeah. There's this whole kind of like new landscape of metabolic medicine for pretty much all chronic illness, but like specifically with mental health, right? It's basically not rocket science. It's like when your body's not working well, metabolically,
Uh-huh.
you're fatigued, maybe you're not eating a very good diet, your sleep is off, your brain's not working.
Yeah.
And the first symptoms of that are going to be mental health symptoms.
Yeah.
So depression, anxiety. And yeah, so there are some wonderful voices, in this landscape.
So is that mostly diet?
It is. Yeah.
Like, this friend of mine that's a songwriter, he said that they got a nutritionist
Mhm.
and it made the biggest difference of anything they'd ever done in their life for their
Right.
whole family.
Yeah, exactly. So ketogenic diets, basically are low carbohydrate diets. And they basically do to the brain the same thing that ketamine does, just to drop that glutamate.
Oh, wow. So you're
Yeah.
doing both together?
Yeah.
And it's doing big things?
It's definitely more effective. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, because, the carbohydrates, all that stuff, like, it hadn't been around. I mean, people used to didn't eat crackers.
Right.
They used to,
Yeah.
eat vegetables and fruit and like just they say on the outside of the grocery store,
Yep.
that's the good
Shop
part.
on
And
the
then
perimeter.
the cookie crisp and all that in the middle's the bad stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So it makes sense to people that ketamine alone, just like any medication alone, is not going to fix the whole matrix. We got to work on everything. Got to sleep better, got to move,
Yeah.
got to eat better, just eating like you want to live,
Yeah.
right?
Oh my gosh, that's good. Eating like you want to live.
Yeah.
I ate so many jelly beans today. I ate a whole bag of those jelly bellies today. And I'm just like, I have not been eating good this week, like
Right.
just eating really bad stuff. I got to get it together on that. Like, because I mean, it is fuel, for your
Right.
body.
Right. But it's the kind of fuel that can kinda turn into jet fuel, like, in the brain as opposed to, like, the slow burn,
Yeah.
right?
Do you think that has a lot to do with mental health, people's diet?
Totally.
How much percent?
I think different people have different tolerances, okay?
Yeah.
But we know that mental illness is getting more common.
I know. I know. It seems
Yeah,
rampant.
right. And there's certain things that have happened nutritionally in the last 50 years in this country that are just, like, not like, they're not okay.
Yeah.
And it's probably a combination. It's like how many people spend most of their day looking at something that's about 14 inches from their face,
Yeah.
you know? Not looking around, not outside. People told me it snowed today. I was in my office all day. I was like, "It did? Wait, I thought it was summer."
Yeah, I know. We went to a concert. Every kid had their phone. They weren't watching the stage. They were looking at their phone
Right.
video, and it's like, you can do that at home. Get
Yeah.
in the middle of this,
Right.
like,
Right.
but it's really wild. Like, I think it was a Taylor Swift show, and everybody's looking at their phone and not the stage. It was like, it's already virtual. Like
Right.
if you're looking at the phone.
Yeah. Like, how different is it? And so that's like we've become observers, not participants,
Yeah.
right? And that is actually something that ketamine kind of forces you to do.
Yeah, it makes you participate. You don't
Exactly.
get a choice.
Right. It's for you, right?
Yeah,
It's your own
exactly.
ritual. Yeah.
So have people come in to do ketamine therapy and then been like, have you seen a difference in the outcome if they came in scared of it and resistant? Like, have you seen a difference with that versus if they came in with the right attitude about it?
Yeah, so in the people that are scared of it, sometimes it's easy fix. It's like, "Oh, let's just
Like you said
explain."
about the
Yeah,
slow.
show you how it's done,
Yeah.
you know, and then they're kind of, like, relaxing about it, but sometimes that resistance, it's like they want to, but they don't, and that's actually a metaphor for a whole lot of other scripts that are running in their life,
Yeah.
right? It's like, "I want to, but I can't."
Yeah, and they're doing that in every part of their life.
Yeah, right, and so just kind of like the experience being about navigating that successfully,
Mhm.
can be really therapeutic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, so you've seen it change lives.
totally. Yeah.
Like, what's the biggest thing you would say, the biggest example?
Probably one of my favorite stories of honestly, I feel like it's a sacred act that I get to sit
Yes.
with people in this
Oh,
space,
I
right?
bet. You're
Yeah.
fixing and helping them change their life.
Yeah. And my nervous system gets to borrow their experience too,
Yeah.
right? It's like, better humans make better, like
Make better
better
everything.
everything, right? So, one of my patients had suffered some abuse as a child, and that abuse was really compounded by how her parent responded, right? So that she'd gone to her parent with the story of the abuse, and then her
That
parent accused
happens a
her.
lot. That
It
happens all
Yeah,
the time.
right. And the abuser and her parent were dead. And so there had been a story for a long time that's just like there's never gonna be any resolution
Yeah.
because they're gone.
Yeah.
And in this series of ketamine, the first session, this was someone who was really burdened by depression. And so she gets the we get started and the ketamine kind of gets going, and the next thing I know, she is dancing, and she just about dances off this couch, and I'm like, the joy on her face and the lightheartedness, like, were just, like, amazing because 'cause
Did
I'd
she
not
just seem like a different person?
She did, and she kind of comes through it, and she's just like, "I haven't felt joy in so long." And we talk about how ketamine kind of like I always say it's like a sunroof opening and whatever's on top, kinda gets dealt with first.
Yeah.
And it was like she just had not had any joy or relief from this kind of, like, cloud of affect for so long that that's what wanted to happen.
Yeah.
And she was one of those that was just terrified going in that she was just gonna relive a memory as if it was happening again for the first time.
Well, I bet a lot of people are like that. I
Yeah.
bet a lot of people, they're trying to deal with something that happened to them probably that they kind of know happened, but they're not sure and they don't want to know if they do.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just like such a Rubik's Cube of just nightmares,
Right.
like not knowing what they're going to find out. What if it's even worse than I thought it was?
Right.
Like the whole thing. Like, I love what you said about your brain and metaphors.
Mhm.
Like, I had this one thing, but it's weird because sometimes things will just be kind of disturbing, but you don't understand them. But then in the big picture, they're good.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
I remember like when I was like right at the beginning of one of the ketamine treatments, I saw like there was a conveyor belt. It was in the house like my stepdad grew up in, behind it in a greenhouse because they had a greenhouse back there. And it was like in the greenhouse, there was like a conveyor belt and it had all these little, they were about the size of school erasers and there were little skeletons and
Wow.
boxes going down the conveyor belt. I
Mm.
don't know what that meant, but it did make me look at my stepdad different. I can't even explain it
Yeah.
exactly,
But you knew.
but it changed
Yeah.
something.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
just some kind of insight,
Yeah.
right?
And I don't know if it's because like he had such a painful back history at that house, or what. I
Mm.
don't know why. I don't know any of it, but his dad wasn't a good character,
Right.
in the
Right.
story. Like, but it did make me feel different about him.
Right. I mean, we receive so much from our ancestors,
Yeah. Yeah.
generationally. We were learning more about that, this field of epigenetics and kind of like how experience changes how your genes
Yeah.
express
And like
themselves.
inherited trauma.
Oh, totally.
That stuff's
Right.
wild. Like how
Yeah.
this kid was studying these butterflies. I'll have to send you the link. And
Mhm.
and he was saying they were transferring memories like to the next
Wow.
butterfly. He's a 10-year-old that figured it out from a caterpillar to a butterfly, like just going through the thing. He's kind of like an autistic kid obsessed with butterflies,
Well, there you go.
but he figured out something huge.
Well, we need that. We need that.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
big time. I think it's so crazy that most of medicine is like out in the woods, like you just kind of. Sometimes I think, how did they ever figure this out? Like about any of it. You know
Yeah,
what I
just
mean?
keep trying.
Yeah.
Keep trying stuff,
Like
right?
back a long time ago, like, well, somebody did this and it worked, and then try it and it might kill some
Yeah,
people, but they gradually figure it out.
right. Well, I mean, and people forget that, like, one of the drugs we use in cancer all the time called Taxol is derived from the Pacific yew tree or bush, right? There's a
Really?
yew growing outside my window at my office, right?
Oh, that's
It's
so
chemo.
wild, isn't it?
Yeah, right, and we forget that.
It all comes from stuff like that, nature.
Yeah, and even when we synthesize it like we did with ketamine, and then we later discover that actually, no, nature's already
That's
been there,
so
right?
wild to me. I
Yeah.
read somewhere like the majority of dirt, the reason it's spongy is because mushrooms. Like, because
Oh, yeah.
mushrooms are under everything.
Yeah, the
They're
whole
everywhere. I'm
mycorrhizal.
fascinated by
Yeah.
them. I mean, they really like. We had one that popped up that looked like a brain. Then
Mhm.
we had one that was like these balls, white balls. Have you ever seen
Oh,
like?
yeah, right, the puffballs.
Yeah, and we also have 2 fairy rings that come up every year, like just the rings of mushrooms, like
Around a tree or just
in the
okay.
yard, just random in the yard. Actually, we've probably had 5, but we have 2 that come up every year in the same place.
Mhm.
And they just make a perfect ring.
Awesome.
Isn't that
Yeah.
awesome? Like my mom, I got a picture of her like spinning around in the middle of the one in the backyard. But yeah, I think that like hopefully we're moving into age where people like I just don't like it when they demonize things that help people. That's what bothers me most, I
Right,
think.
right.
And make people feel like they're doing something wrong
Yeah,
when they're
right.
just trying to feel better.
Just trying to feel better. Right.
And I mean, what's the real difference between taking antidepressants and going in and trying something different?
Yeah. Well, I think people are rightfully suspicious of healthcare, right? If you just use opioids as an example. Like, if we give people like a longer than a 3-day course of opioids postoperatively,
They're
the
addicted.
the risk of addiction just goes up exponentially. And so for people that might have experienced that, now they're gonna come in and we're gonna use ketamine on them,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
mean, there's a reasonable suspicion,
Yeah.
about like, what are you doing? Even to be started on an antidepressant and really struggle to get off of it,
Yeah.
right? There are a lot of people that struggle to, kind of stop something, not because they're high on it or enjoying it. In
Yeah.
fact, it's not working
Their
and
body ain't gonna work right without it.
right, and it's hard to get off,
Yeah.
right? And so I think it's a healthy skepticism is what I love,
Mhm.
right? Let me make a good argument that your nervous system can relax around and then also uphold a virtuous position. It's what I love about ketamine. Like, for the most part, you're not gonna be taking as many meds,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
we're
You come in and
peeling
do
that off.
therapy and take it.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think about people doing that nose spray?
I mean, I think Spravato is pretty good, and so, one reason that it's nice is that it is covered by insurance, if your
Yeah, and
insurance
that's
covers it.
another sad thing. You
Yeah.
can't go get the therapy
Right.
if insurance don't pay for it.
Right. And to me, that's the missing piece.
Yeah.
So I think that the magic of ketamine is actually in the ketamine and the therapy,
Yeah,
right?
together.
Together,
Yeah.
right?
I think that thing like that you said about it's almost sounded like a mix of the AA with the ketamine,
Mhm.
like especially for people like soldiers or people who have been
Right.
just through these horrible things
Yeah.
and they get to talk to other people and have this therapy because it is true like with the ketamine it's not like you wake up, I'm all well, yeah, I'm all
Right,
better.
right.
Like
Yeah.
you have to figure shit out after and think about it and process like you're talking about. It's good to come in and talk about it because that thing about metaphors is so true about the brain. It's not like black and white.
Right. And, one of the things I love about group ketamine is that especially when kind of someone's sharing after the experience, it's not uncommon that people would say, well, that felt familiar,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because there's like a nonverbal, kind of communication. And it's something about the experience. Our nervous system gets to borrow the experience of everybody else's,
Yes.
you know? So we are a narrative species, right? We love stories.
Yeah.
We heal, we identify with it. We have these mirror neurons that, kind of help us to, kind of gauge and perceive others, but then also feel others' feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was telling Chris the other day, like, say you're going into Starbucks or something and there's some steps and somebody's sitting on them crying. It just will stop you cold. Like,
Yeah.
we're connected. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's like we're connected. It's like I want to help this person. I don't want to freak them out. Like it just stirs up so much stuff in you because like we're starting to get so far apart from that. To
Mhm.
me, I think that group therapy with it might be the best thing, especially if somebody's been through some traumatic thing,
Right.
like really traumatic thing.
Well, just to know that, like, I just did a retreat with a really cool guy named Jerry Colonna. He's a Buddhist executive leadership coach. It was like the coolest thing I've ever
I
done.
want to go to one of those
Oh, yeah.
retreats. Can anybody go or do you have to be a doctor?
No, anybody. I was the only doctor there. But anyways, he wrote this book called Reboot, and he talks about how your story is my story, right? And like all over the world. Like we could be the most different people on the earth, but we have a lot of shared stories.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that group experience really comes out in ketamine. And I think that one of the things it can do is like we're real out of practice connecting in a group.
Yeah.
Okay. And so this kind of like drops the energy into kind of ground level really fast, which is great. Like kind of a amplifier, just like takes time to get into therapy,
Uh-huh.
and kind of feel safe. Ketamine just like helps us get rid of that kind of speed bump
Yeah.
quickly. Yeah.
How much about the brain do you think we understand? Like
Like
hardly any?
yeah, like hardly any.
Yeah. To me, it's the most fascinating of everything.
Right.
And, you're going to hear stories that are scary and shocking. Like anytime somebody is in that place, where they are a lot of times when they need help, whether it's antidepressants or
Mhm.
no matter what kind of treatment they're doing,
Right.
anything, it's almost kind of like anything could happen.
And, I've learned the hard way never to kind of look at a tool and turn it away. Right.
Yeah.
So, I've had patients that have done ketamine. It's like they like the experience, but maybe kind of kept going back to that same place ultimately, like, it just didn't stick, and then antidepressants worked, and they'd been very resistant to that. Because it's pretty common that we see people who've heard the stories and they're like, "I don't want that. I know I need help. I need something, but I don't
But
wanna
you've
take."
seen better, like, outcomes, like, with the ketamine than
I
with the
would say it's been pretty
antidepressants?
consistent, like 35 to 40% of people get better on antidepressants, which is not nothing. It's almost
Yeah.
half, right? And,
Do they stay better, though?
so one problem is that, me, I see people for a long time, and so I get to watch people kind of like over the arc of time.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to say what's getting better, what's getting worse. Like life happens,
Yeah.
right? And then if their mood's tanked, is that because of life
Yeah.
or the antidepressants not working anymore? That's such a hard
'Cause my
variable.
mom's on an antidepressant, and it's helped her. She's been
Yeah,
on it forever,
right.
but I just didn't do good with them.
Right. And so again, it's like everybody just gets to have their experience, right?
Yeah.
And the less we can judge about it and kind of project, like,
Yeah.
this is going to make you better. That's like the kiss of death. If we kind of say, like in our office, like, if I have a dog in that fight,
Mhm.
it's not going to go well,
Yeah.
right? If I
Yeah.
have too strong of an expectation this is going to work,
Yeah.
it's kind of like you coming in and saying, I never want to feel depressed again. It's that same kind
Yeah.
of like overburdening, the inner healer. I have
Uh-huh.
to kind of like back off, be hopeful and be objective.
Do you see a difference in the people who have good, like, outcomes from when they come in, what they expect to happen?
Totally. Yeah.
Like, if they come in kind of resistant, like, I don't know, there's so much of that. That's another reason I'm so fascinated with the brain. It's like, if they come in thinking, "I'm gonna give this a shot. I've tried everything else, like, it didn't work, and I just wanna see what'll happen," and they're open to it,
Mhm.
then you're probably gonna get a better.
Yeah. I mean, because going in with fear,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't say that's like something that would be, to exclude a person,
Yeah, but you
right?
can help them, like you said, if they're scared,
Mhm.
you can do it gradual till they kinda get a feel for what it is.
Totally.
Yeah, and
Yep.
then they can, like, decide.
Right.
You don't have to come in full force,
No,
like, if
no.
they're
So we can come in
scared.
like baby dose, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And that's really helpful. I think the problem with that is that most people, are kind of thinking about resources, right?
yeah,
Specifically money.
yeah.
And so people will have this kind of like, I gotta just go hard.
Just hit me hard.
Right.
Yeah,
And again, that's like a common theme in life, right? It's like, doesn't
yeah.
matter how it makes me feel, just needs to fix me,
Yeah,
right? And, so we really have to like rewrite the, kind of the narrative here. It's like,
yeah,
no, actually, it does matter how you feel about this, right?
yeah,
And in fact, that's the healing, right? That,
100%.
that how you feel about it is exactly what we need to know, right? And that's precious.
Well, so, okay, if we close out, is there anything like if somebody's depressed and feeling kinda hopeless, they've tried antidepressants, they haven't worked, like, what would you say
I'd say that, it's worth a conversation,
to
right?
would go to find like,
Yeah,
how do they find the right doctor or
right.
wherever they're at?
Wherever they are. Yeah, so, like I said, people that combine ketamine with therapy,
Yeah,
right? So think about your own experience. You got some information given to
yeah.
you, like, written out, right?
It
And
helped me deal with some stuff, but I don't know how. You know what I
yeah,
mean? It
right.
wasn't, like, super specific. I
Mhm.
just dealt with some things, and they got better than they were.
Right. And so there's basically 2 different styles of giving ketamine. So there's some people that believe like ketamine's the magic, and we're just gonna put you in a room, hook you up to this IV, and we'll check on you every 15 minutes. Okay. And that's one model. But you can imagine somebody having a big experience and nobody's there,
Oh my gosh.
right?
Yeah, that sounds like it could be a nightmare even.
Yeah, yeah, right. And so that's something I would encourage people to do is just, I do have patients that like they go on ketamine, they're very quiet. And, one of the kind of the drawbacks of the ketamine plus therapy is you have to pay a licensed therapist to be with you,
Mhm.
and they're expensive, right? And so that just increases the cost of the treatment,
Yeah.
right? And so sometimes we'll have people that, we know that they're quiet and they just need a booster, right? And so we have those kind of unassisted ketamine sessions with clients that have already they know their work, they know the process, they feel safe and content.
Yeah.
And this is the best thing we can do for them to decrease their financial burden,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
But always, kind of like if you don't know going in, I would hate to kind of set that scene up, for someone to have no support person with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
I would think they would need that.
Right. And then that kind of after the ketamine session, that integration session, that's really where the gold is. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah.
Wait. The integration, you mean talking about it after?
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's
right.
what I thought you
So
meant.
that's kind of like what you look for in a ketamine therapy practice is, do you have therapists? How do you work with integration?
To make
Is
sure
there-
they're like a serious deal.
Exactly, right? Because, remember how like in Kentucky in the 90s, there was all these pill mills on every corner?
Yeah, like I've seen all those movies about it.
Right. And it's not as bad with ketamine, but there's a lot of practices that are just like about volume,
Yeah.
right? And selling ketamine. I mean, that's
And
something
I'm sure that's out there too.
it is. And like we and so many people that I know, like in the space of providing ketamine therapy, like we strike that tone of like, I'm not here to sell you ketamine.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like we want people to do better.
Yeah, exactly.
So it might not be ketamine,
Yeah.
which is why we happen to have like a lot of other tools, because if that fails, like we're not done. Right.
Yeah.
Got to keep that door open. Yeah.
I'm just so happy you came on here because I'm hoping and praying this will help people, especially there's nothing like the worst feeling is like when you just don't care about anything.
Right.
Like you just don't care. Like when you can't think of anything that would bring you joy, when you can't even imagine something could bring you joy,
Right.
like people in that position, you just want to help them so bad, like that's got to be so rewarding. So hopefully this will find somebody it's supposed to.
Yeah, right. And connecting,
Big time.
right. And you're so right. I mean, finding joy is really what we are all about as humans.
Yeah, it's why
right?
we're alive.
Yes. Yeah. Well, you've given me a gift.
Oh, you've given me a gift and hopefully we'll help some people. That's
Yeah.
what I'm hoping.
Yeah. Well, I love it. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yes,
Amy.
thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
You guys rock. Thank you for watching.